Join us in the internet and radio land. Welcome to the People's Choice. I'm your host, Joe Flint, all one word, like a tribe called Quest. Here on WCEG Talk Radio, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, speaking life, into your community, into the world, all over this great world that was created. Brothers and sisters, we have the joy and the pleasure this evening of having with us Mr. Norman A. Carter. A celebrity in his own right, if you will, but he is definitely a wonderful person to know. We spoke with him a few weeks ago in preparation for the city of Snellville as they were in their municipal elections, as all of Georgia really was in municipal elections and some state elections throughout. But now we have a chance to talk with him as the election has taken place. But unfortunately, here in the state of Georgia, we have something called the 50+1 rule. And so if a candidate does not have, more than 50% of the vote, he or she is not dubbed the winner. Although one may have more votes than the other, it is required that you have a 50+1 rule. So without further ado, I want to bring into the fold our own, that is a host of his own show here on WCEG, Mr. Norman A. Carter. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Thank you. Welcome. I feel great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to see you. Always good to see you. You look well. You look like you haven't ran a campaign at all. Maybe a little race, but no campaign. You look you're looking good.
Like I say, it's my makeup artist. It's got me prepared well.
You and me both. You and me both. Well, listen, we understand that it's been a well-fought race, and that we've come to again a runoff, which is always kind of difficult here in the state of Georgia. Probably everywhere, but we know runoffs here typically don't get the amount of people to turn out. And maybe it's just me, but it seems that either on election day or always during the election day of a runoff, there's always some weather issues that take place here in Georgia. I almost think God doesn't like the elections that take place here in Georgia. There's always some stuff going on. But how are you feeling since the election, and how are you feeling moving into this runoff?
Well, it's funny. I used to run track, and you prepare to run a 100-yard dash.
Oh yeah.
And then you wind up, you have to run a quarter mile. And that last part of the race, man, the saying is you feel like you have a piano on your back. So so it's you get yourself built up for that I guess that ending on the election day in November, November 7th, and then all of a sudden it's, oh my, I got to do this all over again.
And you saw the piano say, I just passed you twice.
Yes. And as you said, the challenge is getting the vote out, because traditionally you don't get as many voters coming out for runoff elections as you do during the other elections. And sadly, we only had 10% of our electorate voting. So it's a real challenge. There's no Saturday voting this time around. Everything is during the weekday. That's a big challenge for working people. I sort of wish the hours were similar to what we had in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., which gives working people a chance to get in at the last minute. But with the traffic problems that we have here in metropolitan Atlanta, sometimes it's hard to meet that 7 o'clock deadline if you have a 9 to 5.
That deadline, trying to travel through Atlanta after getting off work during rush hour, it's difficult to do. I want to get a little more into into your campaign, but we both spoke about the voter apathy, if you will, and you're saying that only 10% of the individuals were able to get out there to actually vote. Why do you suppose that is? Why do you think? I mean, we know that this is an issue across the board, but it's something as serious as municipal elections, the people who are really making the difference in your community, who are deciding the tax bracket in your community. Why do you suppose that people just won't get out and vote? And 10%, that is
Yeah,
wow.
it's mind-boggling. I think that people don't have a great appreciation for the importance of municipal elections.
Hmm. Hmm.
They will turn out for the uh, the 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 bigger elections. When you have the presidential elections,
Right.
they'll turn out for those. But municipal elections, people go But in reality, municipal elections determine uh, the security of your municipality,
Right.
your police, your fire. Uh, that municipal elections help to determine the millage rates for your community. If
Right.
you're a property owner, that's
Right.
uh, the municipal leaders have a great influence on businesses coming into the community
Mhm.
and zoning and so many things that directly touch people. But I think that it's a matter of educating people, and a lot of my thrust during my house to house visits
Right.
was trying to impart that importance to people, that municipal elections are important
Right.
because they're more relevant to you than probably any other election that takes place,
Yeah.
because we have our hands right on you day to day.
Correct.
and
Correct.
and yeah, so it's a challenge.
I tell this story all the time when you mentioned the presidential election, that when I was campaigning in Michigan, we were doing, door knocking, and we were going from door to door, and we had gotten to an apartment complex, and we were knocking on the door, and the guy opened the door and says, "I'm good." This was 2010. Now, President Obama had already been elected in 2000.
Mhm.
But the guy opened the door. He said, "I'm good. I'm voting for Obama." I said, "Sir,
uh,
this is midterm elections. We're not here for the president." He said, "Oh no, we good. We good. I'm voting for him." So the answer is true. People look at a national level of elections, but they don't look at a local level of elections. And it's unfortunate because there are so many groups and organizations out here that put in a lot of work and an effort to ensure that people understand the local and national elections. One that was led by my mentor, Reverend Dr. Albert E. Love,
mhm.
the the Voter Empowerment Collaborative. But people just still don't understand how important it is. And so, I guess my question to you is, how, as a candidate, how do you push the envelope to get people to get back out to vote in the runoff?
Well, again, it's about education.
Yeah.
I don't mean that we're sitting down and going point by point by point,
Right.
but
Right.
but similar to just what I've said to you, that
Right.
impressing to people how important it is that your municipal government generally is much more responsive to you than your legislators in the state capitol or on the federal level. You
Right.
almost guaranteed to get a response, if not immediately, at
Right.
least within a day or two.
Right.
Um, your municipal leaders are right there. They're in the community. For most part, even with my phone number is all over Snellville. It will continue to be all over Snellville. My email address. Those are things that don't avail themselves when you for the higher offices. Not taken away from them,
Right.
but I think that people just need to realize the responsiveness that they get, and the city services, the things that life quality, quality of life issues like trash pickup, recycling. Again, I mentioned police services,
Right.
fire services, safety, community safety, all those things, neighborhood cleanliness, all those kind of things come within the purview of your municipal government.
Right.
And if those things are important to you, that is why you really, really, really need to be responsive to selecting your leaders, to vetting
Right.
important. Vetting your leaders.
Right.
Too often, that's not done. People vote sometimes for some of the most, I call them, ridiculous reasons. I mean, their criteria
The
can be
criteria
based.
doesn't matter as much anymore. It's
Right.
it's unfortunate. Name recognition is what people go after, and not only name recognition but party lines. Nobody really takes the time to vet a candidate and or even vet the party's agenda anymore. We simply vote based on what our parents or grandparents or somebody told us, or if they did like me. I always remember when I was 18 and I voted for the first time. I had the unrealistic idea that the incumbent, I said, he or she is already in there, so they must be doing a good job. Let me vote for them again.
Right.
But until you take the time to learn and research and vet again the
Mm-hmm.
candidate, you don't know. But I always think about that. Every time I see the word incumbent now when I'm voting, I laugh about it because at 18, I was like, oh, they're there, they're doing a good job. So let me vote for them again. They're the incumbent. They're
You
already.
know,
So
you
how
brought up, yeah, well,
go
you
ahead.
brought up one issue I think it's important, where this is here in Snellville. This is a nonpartisan election.
Right.
And still, I had door knocking people. One lady in particular that stands out opened the door, and I'll never forget her. The first thing she said was, "Are you Democrat or Republican?" No, this is a nonpartisan election. Then she wanted to know my views on certain subjects, and I expressed those views, which come under the purview of my office as city council person. But again, and I've talked about this a lot, that people are take mental shortcuts, and when you look at party affiliation rather than character and qualifications for the job, that can lead you down a path that you really don't want to go. And
Absolutely.
so I think that character, uh, energy, uh, and community service, prior community service, I think are exceptionally important.
How do you think that your community service and your input in your community has helped you thus far into the campaign? Again, I dare not go down your pedigree, but you serve on
Yeah,
quite a few boards
yeah.
there in the community, in the city, and in the county. Do you think that serving on those boards and in those community activist roles have helped you thus far in this election?
Oh, absolutely. To the point where um, it helps me as a person because I have uh, had the pleasure of meeting so many different people,
Right.
uh, different ages, different economic levels, different races, all part of this community, and actually had opportunities. This is prior to my even announcing or becoming into politics because I've been involved in these boards for years. Uh, to get a feel of what people need, a
Right.
feel about people's pride in their community, the needs like cleanliness and taxes and being able to explain how all that works and the limitations of government, of municipal governments. And I'm also sit on a board for the county.
Right.
So just being able to know, have a feel for the areas or responsibilities that I could influence as a council person or as a citizen, but also being able to uh, have enough of background knowledge to be able to refer people to proper agencies or proper levels of government that
Mhm.
can better deal with their issues than possibly just our municipality. So
Let me
I think,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry.
You know,
Please
great.
finish.
No, I'm fine. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Mr.
No, you did.
Norman.
You're good.
But let me ask you this. When we look at the numbers, I mean, it was by the skin of your teeth
Yes.
type of race. If I look correctly, 15 votes between you and the other candidate. There was three of you all on the roster there, but 15 votes between you and the next highest person. 15 people, or let's say 16, could have decided the election. And going back to the fact that you said only 10% of the electors or of the residents got out to actually vote. Where do you think that line is drawn? You know, skip the 15 people. Where do you think the line is drawn between you and your opponent? What do you think is the difference that you all are that close? Or is it that there are so many similarities that you all are that close in the election?
I think that we are dissimilar.
Mm.
Um, I know that my focus has always been about this community and
Right.
making this community better. Uh, I have made several presentations at City Council over the past year about uh, things that better the community, things that bring people together. Uh, and that's what I'm about.
Right.
My slogan, moving forward together.
Right.
Uh, and I think that I'm trying not to be negative, but I think that people, whether they've spoken to me in person or had conversations about me, or cheap plug, read my book, uh, know that I've always been about truth and justice and equity for all people. That's always been my focus throughout my entire life.
Mhm.
And this is what I talk about vetting people. Um, I have served on so many boards and in so many capacities, from uh, poll worker to assistant poll manager at one point, and then coming back and being selected to sit on the senior citizen board, and that led to the Parks and Recreation Board and the board, Snellville Board of Appeals, and the Gwinnett County uh, uh, Parks and Recreation Board. That's people looking at me, and I'm not Patty, but that's people in leadership, community leadership positions who have looked at me and said, this is the type of person we want to be a part of our planning, to
Right.
be a part of our um, leadership in the community. These are
Right.
other people. These are people who have been leaders in this community for years. So, when those type of things happen to you, to me, that means something. Uh,
Absolutely.
I didn't seek out these positions.
Mhm.
Uh, um, Even running for council, I had no, uh, that was never in my purview. And to have people from different walks of life come to me and say, we need you on city council.
Well,
Have you ever thought?
it speaks to your ability to connect with the people and serve in these capacities that you all are neck and neck because this person was
Right.
the incumbent. So it speaks to your character and your ability to work across the aisles, if you will, that you are so close in this election. What do you think uh, are the key elements that got you to this point? And I asked that question with this in mind. So I'm a firm believer, having ran campaigns before, there are two major things that a campaign, well, three technically, but there are three things that a campaign needs in order to succeed. And I say three, but it's really two. You need the money, and you
Number one.
need, yeah, you did. Number one is you need the money. The second thing is you need a good field operation. And people say, well, what about the candidate? That's the least important. You can have, if you got the money and you got the field operation, you can promote the candidate. You just need
Mhm.
those things. You need the money and you need the field operation. How do you feel that you measured up in those areas?
Well, money it's funny, and I've talked to um, people who run for office before in Snellville and who were successful.
Yeah.
And you know, initially, people would spend less than $1,000 to get elected.
Right. Right.
Um, uh, I've spent for the initial election. I think I'm on record of spending about $5,600,
Hmm.
which people consider to be a lot of money.
Yeah.
Uh, I was outspent 3 to 1 in that category.
Wow.
Uh, but a lot of that money didn't come from Snellville people. It came from way outside of the community.
Hmm.
Um, and but I think that um, just it's a difficult question. You get into what separates me from the other person.
Right.
Uh, I and I hope I'm answering your question, but being able to sit down with former mayors and former council persons and former uh, community activists, and to actually sit down with the police chief and the city manager, uh, the uh, the maintenance, the people in charge of maintenance, uh,
Hmm.
uh, the persons in charge of recycling and our trash
Right.
pickups. And I thought that was important. Uh, you know, you need to know who you're going to be working with, or if you can even work with these people before
Absolutely.
you. And I'm at an age now where I don't need big mountains to climb. I've climbed a few mountains already. I
Right.
can deal with a few hills here and there,
Right.
but to walk in a situation where I'm not able to communicate or even to understand the focus of the people with whom I'll be working, that would be a huge mountain to climb. And I
Listen,
found
preacher in me can't help but to push back on that and say, Inez Andrews said, Lord, don't move the mountain. Just give me the strength to climb. Don't move the stumbling blocks. Just lead me all around. You can do it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
question. Oh,
yeah,
yes, sir.
yeah. It's something. But what I one thing that I did do is I put myself in the position of interviewing, more or less, if you want a better word for it,
Right.
people who are sitting on the council, the
Right.
mayor, um, learning the challenges, that the internal challenges, not
Hmm.
so much the external what the public sees, but the internal challenges that that have to be overcome. And I feel that my experience in leadership, in public safety, in business management, all have uh, prepared me to take this next step in public service.
Right. Right. Well, that speaks volumes, and that tells the story. Campaigns are not an easy thing to manage or deal with, especially as a candidate, because whereas you have a lot of people working on your behalf, the truth of the matter is you're working harder than them, and some people may not know it, but you have to show up everywhere. You
Yes,
have to be seen when you don't want to be seen. You have to speak or greet when you sometimes don't want to do it. But it's a part of the campaign. Do you see what are your projections? Of course, you have no doubt that you want to win. There's no question on
mm-hmm.
that. But if you had to kind of look at uh, what voter turnout will be like come December 5th, do you think you'll still get that same 10%, or will it be less than what was there before?
I feel a groundswell.
Mm, okay.
Um, I feel that there, uh, just from communications I've received from people, that they want to make sure that the turnout is either at or greater than the
Okay.
last.
Right.
Uh, I think that will. I think that will benefit me over my opposition.
Right, right,
Uh, I think that I know the other person has campaigned for office before, that has great community uh, recognition, great name recognition. But as far as being able to reach out and touch people in the community on various different levels, I think that's where I excel. I think that I have the ability to, uh, I know what politics a lot, running government, running a business, a lot of it is encouraging ideas to come in and putting your ideas to come in and learning that what works or what might not work, and also learning the importance of the ability to sometimes compromise.
right.
Uh, and I, it can't, you can never be an all or nothing person, because that's what we have in Washington D.C.
Oh yeah.
We had people on both sides who it's all or nothing, and what eventually happens is nothing gets done. So,
What do you have any? And I know this may be difficult to do, and I don't in any way mean to put you in a hot seat. Are there any specific endorsements that you think that have helped you thus far? Now, as a candidate, you would probably say every endorsement has helped,
right.
but has there been any support from the police in the community, the fire and rescue people, any of those in particular? Do you think that you have a very good relationship with, who have been able to push you a little further?
Well, let me start with the police. I have met with the police chief and several persons in the police department,
Yes.
and they have to be apolitical. They can't be political or come out and give any endorsements. But
Okay.
I have sat down with them and discussed uh, my experiences and what I would like to, uh, uh, some changes and some policies that I would like to institute within the police department. And those ideas were well received.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think as far as endorsements go, to be endorsed by three former mayors of this city, and to be endorsed by the current mayor, and
Okay.
to be endorsed by all but one members of city council, I think speaks volumes,
Absolutely.
especially when you see that the visions that these former leaders have and what the current leader has, and how they've been able to do so many improvements in this community, and then to want to actually, I mean, my interviews with these uh, mayors, these involve anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half,
Right.
sitting sitting with these people,
Right.
discussing my ideas for the community, them sharing histories with me. Um, yeah, it was like I had all these separate job interviews.
Hmm.
It's but it wound up that I all of these people endorsed me and wanted to see me in office, and I think that weighed heavily in my being able to garner uh, just
Support.
15 votes short
Right.
of
Right.
someone who's been actively campaigning for 5 or 6 years. Well, at least 3 or 4 years for sure.
What would you say has been the most eye-opening part of this election? And the second part of that, what would you say has been the most challenging part of this election?
Woo, eye opening. Well, I think uh, part of it I got from going door to door, as exhausting as that was. Uh,
Right.
but it gives you an idea of, we go to door and we dare to promote yourself.
Right.
But then a lot of times what you get is what people like or dislike about the community.
Hmm.
And I was involved in several of those discussions, and the people don't want to hear what someone else did. They want to hear, how
What
do
you
you feel about this, or what can you do about this,
right?
or are you going to continue to support this or support that? Uh, that to me was eye opening. Challenges, uh, there have been some uh, on the negative side. Um, there have been, I've been threatened,
Hmm.
uh, physically threatened.
Wow.
I've been stalked. Uh, it's to the point where I actually had to file a police report. Uh, I never envisioned that as being uh, part of what I would be doing in my campaign to be a city council person. That part, those parts were disappointing to me.
Now, let me
Um,
just put this out here, Ms. Norman. I'm from Bankhead, and I know some people that know some people. Need to make some movements. You or I would not be a part of this. That's something. I can't. I wouldn't imagine that. I wouldn't have
well,
imagined that.
well, the odd part about this is it hasn't. The threats and all haven't put me in fear. If you read my autobiography,
Right.
I was threatened by people who carried around guns every day
Right.
legally, and I
Right.
had to walk among these people every single day.
Right. Right.
But um, but I still don't take them lightly.
Right.
Um,
You shouldn't.
but yeah, that's been the big negative. I think that, and also having someone produce a video with my words being twisted, uh,
Mm.
and getting the wrong idea out there to hundreds, if not thousands, of people, uh, and that's hard to battle against. Hard to battle against. But
When I was still in the military, one of my colleagues used to always say to me, he says, "I would never run for office in Georgia because they some mudslinging people up there. They go to the extreme to run for office. But Joe, if you ever decide to run, we'll have your back."
those people from Bankhead.
Know these people. No, man. I know these people. But it's amazing to know that even in something that should be so dignified and something that should be, get you to a place to support everybody, that there are still individuals out there who feel like they should be in charge, and they'll use whatever tactics humanly possible in order to keep someone silent from even doing it. Again, it's not, this is not new. It's been happening for years and even hundreds of years. But it's amazing to know that people go to that extreme. But the flip part of that is it says to me that you're doing something. You're
Yeah.
bringing about an awareness that others did not know, and then you're challenging the status quo. Most people are okay again with the incumbent. I've been here all the while. Let me continue to serve. And most people are okay with that person, or they've been getting some type of kickback. They've been
Mhm.
been able to benefit in
Mhm.
from an individual. So when here comes a newcomer who's going to disrupt what they consider the natural order of how things go. But again,
Yeah.
nothing to be excited about. But apparently, you're doing something well that somebody actually threatened you.
Well, yeah.
Again, being able
Let,
to have this seat. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. Let me make one thing clear: the person I'm running against is not an incumbent, but
Oh, okay.
has a extensive track record.
Gotcha.
Um, they've run for the same. They've run for council person before, but were defeated in that election, and
Gotcha.
so just based on that, uh, they had a huge head start
Right.
on
Right.
on me. And I think we looked at the figures, and that person, the last election, lost, but they garnered around 600 votes. So they already started out with 600 votes before I even
Long
did
before.
anything. So they were only to increase their status by 200 and some odd votes.
Wow.
So
Look at
that,
those numbers. This really tells the story. I think people really fail to understand just how important every vote counts.
yes.
Excuse me, we have this discussion every single time during the national election. Oh, my vote doesn't count. Oh, this doesn't matter. Oh, my vote this. But to look at 15 people, I mean, I know I said this at the top of the hour, but the difference between you and your opponent is 15 people. That in itself lets us know that every individual voice is actually heard in this type of election.
Mm-hmm.
Further lets us know that the municipal elections is where you can see your vote counting. If you
Yes.
question if your vote counts on a national level, that's understood because there's a lot of different things that coincide with that. But on a local level, this is where you can see without a doubt that I went into the voting poll and I clicked the button for Norman A. Carter, and I can see that my vote counted.
Right.
Whereas on the national level, you question because people don't quite understand how the electoral college works and so on and so forth. But just knowing that all it takes is you and whoever else to go out and make the difference to get this person elected.
Yeah.
What are Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, one family. That's one family coming out to vote for you.
That's
That's the
exactly
difference in the election.
that's
Uh,
that's that's you and your neighbor,
yeah,
somebody next door to you, or
yeah.
whoever you sit on the phone with talking to all day,
Yeah.
making the difference. What what would you say? I think I can't think that I've asked, but what have you learned thus far in this campaign?
Uh, about a year ago, uh, I made a uh, presentation before City Council, and I read the poem "If" by
Mm,
Rudyard Kipling.
mhm,
And I later found out that one of the former mayors of the city was loved it,
mhm,
and one of his favorite poems was the poem "If."
mm,
And ever so often when we meet, and when I talk about the controversies, a lot of the negativity, a lot of the bad things that have been said that are untrue about me,
right.
he always reminds me of the poem "If."
Mm,
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you,
right, right,
um, and not giving in to hate, though other people may hate you, that doesn't mean that that's the way that you have to go.
right,
That goes back to my Christian leanings
right,
also.
right.
Um, and being able to put put your best foot forward. It's difficult, but every day, every time, because you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening, and you never know uh, what the impact of the tiniest thing will have on other people's lives.
Right, right. That
I
you,
hope,
you speak, go ahead.
no, I hope I answered the question.
No, you speak of the poem "If." It reminded me of he's always credited with it. I can't remember who the actual author is, but Benjamin Mays is always credited with the what is it? If I had 1 minute or is it 60 seconds, I can't remember how it actually goes.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
he's always credited with that poem, but he was not the author of that poem.
Right.
So when you were talking about that put me in the mind of the 60 seconds, a
Yeah.
minute in it. In this time, Mr. Carter, do you feel like you've grown, as an individual? Needless to say, I mean, you have, some time in life, and you've seen
Hmm.
it quite a few things. But would you say this election has matured you beyond what you thought that you had already known?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Once you lose your ability to grow, you're stagnant.
Mhm.
And yes, I have learned so much. Once again, re-engaging with people in the community, uh, meeting people that I never would have met had I not put myself in the position of running for city council, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Uh, just I have always enjoyed meeting people and being around people, and as much as people may think that I like to talk, I like to listen more than I like to talk.
Right.
And being able just to listen to people's their joys, their challenges, their frustrations, their successes.
Right.
Uh, that helps. And you know, getting involved into this arena of politics and government, and learning how the inner workings and the challenges that are faced, and you know, because of policies and laws, there are limitations on what you can do. uh,
Right.
those things are it's learning, it's mind expanding, and I think in the ultimate part, it brings on growth.
Right.
And yes, so I have grown a lot in the past year.
So tell me, what is it that you want the voters to know? What do you want them to know concerning Norman A. Carter moving forward together? How is it that you want them to engage with you once elected city council for District 1? Is it correct? District
Well,
1?
it's post one.
Post 1.
Post one, right?
What is it that you want them to know in moving into the runoff election, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the runoff election date is December 5th of this year in the city of Snellville and other uh, jurisdictions throughout the metro area, as well as early voting is Monday through Friday of November 27th, so that's next week, through December 1st. And again, the election is December 5th. Please go ahead with your statement, Mr. Carter.
Well, I think that I think that I want people to know that I'm sincere, uh, that I've always been, through my police career and hospitality career, and I've always had my community growth, community health has
Hmm.
always been a part of who I am.
Right.
And I have a huge track record. I mean, that's easy for anyone to research. Uh, but I'm also a person who uh, is willing to learn, as I talked about that. But I am basically part of a self-starter, and I'm a thinking, and sometimes a thinking person. And sometimes you have to be able to. I used to have a saying back when I worked for the Inspector General's office that uh, some people spend their time, you know, pounding on the wall when all they had to do was open the door and walk through the door.
Yeah.
So there are um, there are ways to get things done that may not always be conventional, but
Right.
there are ways to get things done. And I'm always the person who look for, if I'm blocked on one avenue, well, let's see what other avenue we can take. Uh,
Right.
that's legitimate. Um, and I think that that's what I bring to that I will be bringing to city council and bringing to the citizens. Uh, my ability uh, to communicate. I think I'm a good communicator, and the best quality of being a good communicator is being a good listener,
That's
and and and, uh, and being a concerned listener. I don't just want to hear you. I'm listening to you. I'm paying attention to you, and I I've had challenges in my own life, so I can understand the challenges and frustrations that people go through in
right.
dealing with government. I've had faced those challenges myself, so I understand that. I understand that sometimes people have a bad idea of what government officials are. Uh, I'm going to be the responsive candidate to everyone, and I can't solve everybody's problem, But if I can't solve the problem for you, I can definitely direct you to somebody who can.
Right.
And that's the person who I am.
Let me ask this question, and I know it's not something that candidates like to hear, but and I asked this question because of a conversation I had with my barber the other day. My barber is also a choreographer. He dances, and he's fantastic at it. I couldn't even know where. I think I'm a good dancer, but I am Elaine on Seinfeld when it comes to him. But he went and auditioned for a position to dance with Usher in the Super Bowl show. Yeah, he's really good. Like it was national
Wow.
right, uh, but he didn't get the position. And so I said to him when we were talking the other day, I said, "Now the interview starts." Um,
Hmm.
and he said, "What do you mean by that, Mr. Joe?" Which really upsets me. He calling me Mr. Joe because that makes me
Yeah.
feel like 100 years
Right.
old. But but I said, now what happens is now you can see whether or not this is what you really wanted to do. And
Hmm.
others are watching to see how you took this gracefully. And so
Hmm.
I tell that story to ask this question. I am of the belief that Norman A. Carter will be post one city council member
Hmm.
uh, for Snellville. But for whatever reason, if that isn't the case, how do you continue to move in the same effort, in the same spirit as you are now? Or will you back away from the limelight? Will you go and tuck your tail and run? Or will you still be that same community activist working for the community and working for your district?
Well, I can't change what I have been for the majority of my life.
Mhm.
And so I've always been someone, whether I was in Philadelphia or here in Georgia, or whether I was working as a police officer or working in the hospitality industry, I have always been vocal.
Yes.
Um, um, Sometimes I have to pick my battles. I haven't done that well sometimes, but
Mhm.
uh, um, uh, but
Yeah.
I will continue to be that person.
Yes.
Uh, uh, I will continue to be uh, I will continue to poke the bear when the bear needs to be poked,
Yes.
um, but not just to do it for the heck of it.
Right.
There's some people who just feel like it's their point, their job to be the ultimate critic, and
Yeah.
I am not that because I have given praise where praise needed to be given,
Yes.
and I've also criticized when there's need to be criticized. And sometimes the criticism, a lot of times when you criticize, you have to also come with a solution
Right.
because otherwise you're just a whiner.
Right.
And so I will continue to be that person, whether or not I am on council. Um, I've always been a person engaged with making my community
Right.
safer and better. And I will continue to be that person until my dying day.
How we conduct ourselves after the interview is what matters the most.
Yes,
That's when people are really watching you to see what you're going to do, to see if you are as effective or if you're as dedicated as you say you are to that. So I wanted to get that out there for the people to know that your dedication is not limited to an election or
right.
limited to an office, but that your dedication is there because you believe in what you're doing. All too often, we see candidates who run for office, and if they don't win, they're never seen again. We don't hear
Hmm.
anything from them. They remove themselves from boards and they go and tuck their tails in the corner. But to know that you are not in it for the title, but in it for the mission makes all the
Right.
difference in the world.
Yeah.
And that speaks to your character and to your ability to be able to serve in this capacity. How can the people find you? What's your website and social medias that they can find you and learn more about Mr. Norman A. Carter?
Well, if you, my website is filled with information. It's www.norman, Norman, the number four, Snellville.com. That's www.normanforsnellville.com. Uh, that gives you uh, everything about me, including contact information. My email address is on there, Norman Carter Jr. 372 at gmail.com. Norman Carter Jr. 372 at gmail.com. That if you have a question related to City Council in Snellville or my views on certain topics, please feel free to email me. I'm just open for questions, comments, and most of all, support and donation.
Question is asked, what's the largest nation in the world? Donation. That's the largest nation in the world is donation.
Donation.
That one works every time. So listen, I know I asked this question, but what is your start speed? What is it that you want the citizens of Snellville to know that in voting for Norman Carter, they can be guaranteed X, Y, Z?
Well, number one, as I said before, I'm a listener and I like to respond. Whether that response is something that I can do for you directly or refer you to the proper avenue to redress your concern, that's what I do. That's what I like to do. I like to be a problem solver. Right. I want to make sure that your tax dollars are spent properly within the community and not wasted on or duplicating or just making sure that you're getting the best bang out of your buck. Public safety is a big thing to me. I want my community to be as safe as possible. I want my police officers to receive the training that they need to be the most effective guardians of the community that they can be. I want to encourage business growth, but not necessarily to bring in business, but not to do. We have so many businesses popping up and so much tearing down, but we have areas that are where business have vacated due to the COVID pandemic or to other reasons, and we have a lot of properties that are available for businesses to come in and take right over. That benefits the community. That benefits employment. And for my background, for being on the Parks and Recreation Commission, advisory board, on the Senior Citizen Advisory Board, I want to keep that same feeling and that same focus to provide opportunities for recreation and education of our youth and our seniors. Surprisingly, as a member of the Snellville Senior Citizens, now it's the Snellville Active Adult Center, that a lot of our older citizens are still engaged in learning. Mm-hmm. We have all sorts of learning programs for older adults, and I want to keep those things going. And just a lot of our volunteer programs like Give Hunger the Boot. We have the Cop Cab, that our farmers market. We have our Snellville Clean and Proud. That's part of the free programs that don't cost the citizens any money. Absolutely. Depend on volunteers, and I want to keep those going and be a part of those activities also. Well,
we thank you as always, Mr. Carter, for coming here and giving us the information, the rundown of who you are and why it's important for us to continue to support you in this effort in becoming the Post 1, correct? It's Post 1.
Correct. Yes.
Post 1 City Council member for the city of Snellville. Listen, again, I don't live in Snellville, but the only thing that I'm advocating for is that you all fix that congestion. It's at 120. Congestion at 124 is something's got to give. I would hate to be about to run out of gas right there, because it's just it's a lot going on there, and that traffic on 124 is hectic. But no, we truly thank you for all that you have done thus far and all of the community boards that you serve on, supporting the people in your community, in and out of your community, in and out of the county, to ensure that Snellville is moving forward together and ensure that's Gwinnett, right? Gwinnett County is moving
absolutely.
together. Greatly appreciate you and know that there will be victory in the end. I want to add, and I say this all the time during election season, and you've probably heard this quote before, but it's one of my favorite. Bad people are elected every year by good people who don't vote. Ladies and gentlemen, it's to understand that every vote counts. Every single vote counts. If you don't believe it, just go and take a look at the close proximity that Mr. Carter and his candidate and his opponents are in this race. Again, just a 15-point difference. But of course, in Georgia, we have the 50+1 rule, wherein the candidate has to have 50+1 in order to be declared the winner of that vote. In Mr. Carter's favor, nobody got to that place. And so we are here at the runoff where the difference can be made. Brothers and sisters, it has been our pleasure to chat with Norman A. Carter here on The People's Choice. He is always a wealth of knowledge, and we thank him for his dedication to the people and to everyone in the community. And we look forward to being able to serve alongside with him and congratulate him on Inauguration Day when he is elected post one city council member for the city of Snellville. Any last words you'd like to say?
Well, I'm going to quote my wife. But I had a little down moment there when I was running for before the election. She says, "Win or lose, it was a blessing to be on the journey."
Absolutely.
And I'm thankful for the journey. I believe that the God and my Lord and Savior put me here for this journey. Yes. And win or lose, there's a purpose in it all.
Quite often we miss the journey for looking at the destination. And so the journey is absolutely where it is. We thank you so very much, Mr. Carter. We wish you the best of luck. And on December 5th, I expect to be coming to your house for some bubbly to celebrate with you. You will be the elected city council member for Post 1 in Snellville. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just joined us live here on WCEG Talk Radio, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Network, here on The People's Choice. I've been your host, Joe Flint. All one word, like a tribe called Quest. Good night, everyone.